Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Amma, and if you're returning, thank you so much for tuning in once again. I know we're in a different setting. This is not the usual, makeup and hair studio. We're in the living room. I'm in my PJs, but I still look cute. So as some of you may know, I am an engineer. I gotta gas myself up, y'all, like I have to, because who gonna do it? I've been getting questions about my career, about my field, because I've been posting my day in the life and get ready me. So an aspect of my YouTube channel is going to be dedicated to making videos about my career, my day in the life, get ready me, like corporate life. And for this video, I'm going to be answering some questions that I usually get. I took screenshots off from like my comment section, from my DMs, and just questions I get in general. And I'm going to answer it. So this is like a first of many from your Engineering Big Sis to you. So we're gonna go through the questions. I guess the first one that I should answer is like, what type of engineer am I? If you didn't know, I would say I am a mix of two, biomedical and mechanical. And the reason I say this is because I did my bachelor's in biomedical engineering, and then I did my master's in mechanical engineering. However, in the current field I work in, it is more biomedical than mechanical. Obviously, that was a choice. If I wanted to work in the mechanical engineering field, I could, because I do have the expertise to do so. But my passion is in medical devices, and so I went towards a more medical side of things, but it's less mechanical. Now that that's out of the way, how did I become an engineer? I get that a lot. I get a lot of questions like, how do I become an engineer? There's different ways to go about it. There's the traditional route, which I took, and there's obviously like unconventional, not traditional route. So let's go over the traditional route. Traditional route is, you go to college, you do the 4-year degree, you major in the engineering field, which I did. So I got my bachelor's in biomedical engineering. So I was in a 4-year college and got that degree. There's obviously different engineering majors. So different colleges have different engineering fields. There's some colleges that don't have biomedical engineering, they have like bioengineering. So it depends on which college you go to. They might have different offerings, or they might call it something else. The college that I went to Tufts. So we had biomedical engineering, chemical engineering, we had civil, we had environmental, we had computer engineering, human factors. What else did we have? I think I covered 90%. If I missed something, sorry. Every college has different engineering fields. There's obviously the common ones that most colleges have, which is usually mechanical, civil. I know when I started my first year, biomedical engineering was like a new field, but now most colleges tend to have it. But initially, it was not that common. So there's colleges whose engineering degrees are ABET. So ABET is the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology. So Tufts has ABET accredited engineering degree. So when I graduated, my engineering degree was ABET accredited. Most of the engineering degrees at Tufts are. I know they changed a couple of things. That doesn't apply to me. My degree was ABET certified. Thank you. So it was very important for me to do that, because there's certain things that as an engineer, if you want to do, they might require you to have a degree that comes from an ABET accredited program. And so I wanted to make sure that my degree was ABET accredited. Obviously, not everybody prioritizes that, but I do. Yeah, so the traditional route. So traditional route is going to college and getting this 4-year degree. Untraditional route is there's people who did not major in engineering but have ended up in engineering careers. For instance, I know there's some computer engineers that didn't really major in computer engineering, but somehow they got the expertise to be able to fall into that field. It's the same way there's people that don't go to school for like business but end up in business fields. Yes, obviously you're not gonna be, making bridges if you're not a civil engineer. You're not gonna be signing off on that because you actually need a degree. There's certain engineering jobs where you actually have to have the degree to do it. Nobody's gonna have you signing off on bridges and buildings if you didn't actually go to school for that. No. It's not a little go on Google, go on YouTube. No. Back to what I was saying, untraditional route. Untraditional route is there's some people who did not major in biomedical engineering, but they have ended up in biomedical engineering fields. Like I have friends who may have majored in, let's say, human factors or chemical engineering, but their role is technically biomedical engineering. So what even is biomedical engineering? Let's talk about that. I would define biomedical engineering as engineering that involves biology. I would classify any medical device as falling in that aspect. I would classify biotech as falling in that aspect. I would classify any medical AI. I would put that in biomedical engineering. I would put some chemical stuff under biomedical engineering, like some research stuff. I would put all of that under biomedical engineering. Because even at Tufts, the degree when I was there had 3 concentrations. They had biomaterials, they had tissue engineering, and then they had medical devices. I focused on medical devices and tissue engineering. So as I was saying, there's people that, didn't major in an engineering degree, but have somehow pivoted into an engineering field. And how they've done this is obviously they have either taking classes, taking certifications, or, gotten some sort of experience that has allowed them to pivot into that degree. There's obviously, as I said, there's obviously specific roles where they do require you to have an engineering degree, but there's some companies and there's some roles where they don't require that. So if you're someone who may not have majored in engineering or trying to pivot into that field, it is a possibility, but it's a role and by company basis. It's not every company, it's not every role that will allow that. Other unconventional way, there's certification programs. I know people that, do for instance, that data science, data engineering, Google certification program. So those are unconventional ways to pivot into careers where you do a certification program. Everybody that asks me how do I get into it? I hope this answers your question. You can go the traditional route or the unconventional route. Pick one. Another question I get a lot is salary. We all like money. I like money. I know you like money. That was obviously a factor in why I picked that degree. I like nice things. I like to look nice. I like to wear nice things. I like to live a nice life. Let's dive into the money aspect. Obviously, I'm not gonna tell you how much I make. That is confidential information that I shall keep to myself. However, I will give you a general range. For a biomedical engineer, straight out of college, going the traditional route, you can expect around 80K. And then with experience, obviously more money keeps on adding up. If you have a master's degree, more money. More experience, more degrees, more money. I do think it is a career that pays well. I wouldn't have picked it if that was not the case. But comparatively to, let's say, computer science, computer engineering pays more. There are biomedical engineers who end up in the computer science field, so it's a possibility for you to be a biomedical engineer working in a computer science field and make computer science money. However, for a traditional biomedical engineer working in a traditional biomedical engineer field, compared to a computer engineer, starting, I would say computer engineers tend to have a higher starting salary straight out of college than a biomedical engineer. But compared to civil, biomedical engineers tend to have a higher starting salary than civil engineers. And also, biomedical engineers tend to have a higher starting salary than mechanical engineers. I'm thinking about getting my master's in biomedical engineering. I was wondering, do you like it? Do you think it's worth it? Would you recommend this line of work? So, I didn't get my master's in biomedical engineering, so I cannot speak to the master's degree for biomedical engineering. I can speak to the bachelor's degree for biomedical engineering. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Did I cry? I did. Was it hard? It was. It was very, very difficult, but I enjoyed it. That's why I continued to do it. But it was difficult. The master's degree for mechanical engineering, I hated it. I did not love it. I did it because I wanted to make more money, and I had to see it through. I had to see it to the end. I'm not a quitter. I don't like to quit. I don't like to give up. And I most certainly do not like to fail. And I was failing. I was crying. I was going through it, y'all. That degree was hard. I thought the bachelor's in biomedical engineering was hard. The master's in mechanical engineering, I used to call my mom crying on the phone. It's funny now, it wasn't funny then. She would pick up the phone and it's just sobs. And she would know. She would just know that I was going through it. And it was even more difficult because I didn't have a support system. With my bachelor's, I had my friends. My best friends were here. You know, I had all the people that I started freshman year with. With the master's, all my friends had left. They had all graduated and dipped. I was starting from scratch. I had no friends. And there's just so many different age groups in a master's program. We have people who are parents. We have people in their 50s. We have people who are getting their 4th master's. Do I know why? I don't know. We have someone in here who's taken this class before. Why are they here? I don't know. It was just like a whole spectrum of people. Everybody was acting as if they knew what was going on, and I felt like I was the dumb one in the class. And it didn't help that my bachelor's was not in mechanical engineering, so the professors always expected that I knew what was going on. I was like, no, I'm from a different place. You know, you give me cells, you give me chemicals, I can work with it. The stuff that you're talking about, I have no idea what's going on. Help, send help. There was a very, very steep learning curve. Like, I had to learn really quickly. I had to put in a lot of extra work to be able to pass that degree. Another thing you should also know, which differs between my bachelor's and my master's, is that for the master's, you're required to have a B- or higher in all your classes. You cannot have any grade below a B-. You do, and you are dropped from the program. That is not the case for bachelor. With bachelor's, you can get a C. Nobody cares. It's just like your GPA suffers. And I remember there was this class where I was literally on the borderline. I was on the borderline of a B- and a C. And I was like, I cannot get a C. I cannot. I hated master's in mechanical engineering, loved bachelor's in biomedical engineering. I hope that answers that question. Someone asks, in what sector of biomedical engineering do you work from home? So my job is hybrid. So I work from home some days, go in person some days. My previous biomedical engineering job was completely remote. Yeah, completely remote. So I've had like a range of like in-person and remote biomedical engineering jobs, and it depends. Obviously, if you have a research job, it is not going to be remote. You're most likely going to be like 90% in person because it's research. You got to go in, you got to work with the cells. The cells are not going to feed themselves. You got to go feed the cells. Hello? But if you do like more documentation stuff, you can do your documentation from your computer at home. It's like a company by company basis, honestly. It depends on the company you work for. And especially with the climate we're in, most companies are forcing people to go back in person. So it really depends. Someone said, how difficult is it to secure a job as a biomedical engineer in a hospital in the USA? So biomedical engineers don't really work in the hospital. There's like some field service engineers who like go to the hospital to like check on like devices and stuff. But I guess I'll just answer the general question of how difficult is it to get a biomedical engineering job? Everybody knows the job market right now is not ideal. It's hard to get any job. No, honestly, it really is. And it can be very demoralizing just submitting application after application and not hearing back. What I can say is don't give up and just keep going. Initially, it wasn't that difficult, but now I would say it's pretty difficult to get a biomedical engineering job. Okay, so I had this question from somebody who they had their bachelor's in human anatomy and physiology and public health, but they're interested in biomedical engineering. They want to get their master's in biomedical engineering, but they're scared that they don't have an engineering foundation, so they'll be at a disadvantage. It's gonna be tough. I'm not gonna lie, it really is, because you do need a lot of math, physics for biomedical engineering, chemical engineering. And if you don't have that, it's gonna be difficult, but you can still, if you really want to do it and you're willing to put in the work to do it, then yes, go for it. But if you don't think you have the willpower or have the dedication to put in extra work and extra hours, then don't. Think about it. I even went from another engineering field to a whole different one, and I had to put in a whole lot of extra work. I would not have been able to do that master's degree if I did not have a background in engineering. I'm gonna be honest. I would not have survived. I know people who were in there that had a different background. For instance, I was taking a human factors engineering class as part of my master's program. There was someone in there who had like a psychology background, and they were struggling, and it made sense why they were struggling. Even though psychology and human factors engineering are kind of related, they were lacking the engineering aspect, and you're going to be confused, and the professors are not going to really provide much guidance because they just expect you to figure it out. So it really is up to you to know if you're willing to figure it out on your own, and it's going to be hard. But there's resources. There's all these Khan Academy videos. There's YouTube videos. There's books. I literally had to go to the professor and say, I need you to give me the textbooks for this class from the undergrad. I need those. I need to go read them. So I took the mechanical engineering books from undergrad and I went through all of them by myself. If I had questions, I would professor and ask them. I had to learn that and teach myself. That's the main thing. If you're willing to teach yourself, then you can do it. If you can't teach yourself, you will not be able to do it because nobody's gonna teach you, honey. You're gonna have to teach yourself. So if you're watching this and you're trying to get a master's in engineering field and you're from a whole different field, don't think it's not possible. It is possible. It's just up to you. So this is the end of this video. If you have any questions that you want me to answer about my career, engineering, corporate life, internships, all that stuff, please drop them in the comment section and I will talk about them in upcoming videos. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Give me a like, boost your girl's YouTube channel. And if you have not yet subscribed, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join the family. I have been meaning to film this video for so long. I'm so excited that I finally got it done. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back with more videos.